You should just know that she is a bit of a brat. I really think that it was just a perfect act of evil that was almost executed in broad day.
Rises up. Now, he didn't do it himself exactly. He hired a badass named Brian Friedman, and he has badass women like me defend.
Blake Lively is reportedly panicking after a judge allegedly exposed her supposed scheme with damaging evidence linked to Megyn Kelly and Candace Owens.
He is an egotistical bully. And she was such a brat that she wanted to control every scene, wanted to see all the dailies, wanted to do her own cut and did her own cut of the movie. All this is very unusual for just an actress in the...
She thought false allegations would be enough to destroy Justin Baldoni, but she underestimated his genuine loyalty, built not only with fans, but also with influential and steadfast supporters.
Very sarcastic and snarky and just didn't come across.
Blake Lively seemed convinced she could cry her way through a courtroom, cast herself as the victim, and emerge as Hollywood's next feminist martyr. But instead, she's sinking into a crisis entirely of her own design. Not even her privilege or star power appears able to shield her now. The sheer volume of lies attached to this saga is shocking, especially as she directed outrageous accusations toward Justin Baldoni, the director of It Ends With Us. From claims of harassment and misconduct to orchestrating media smears, the narrative has spiraled into a storm she can no longer control.
She has proven herself not to be a kind person.
Here's the real issue. Her story is unraveling faster than Gossip Girl's ratings in its final season. Blake assumed that being America's favorite blonde for decades would allow her to throw out poor me claims and walk away unscathed. But Candace Owens wasn't buying it. In fact, Owens dropped a stack of metadata receipts, suggesting Blake had orchestrated this entire case well before it went public. Reports allege she not only mapped out her legal assault in advance, but also worked the media to control the storyline and frame public perception long before she even entered the courtroom.
I'm just shocked at how many lies.
If Blake had invested half the energy into her acting career that she poured into this controversy, perhaps audiences wouldn't still recall her most memorable role as the girl draped in endless designer coats while providing glossy blog-style narration instead of true substance.
So her reputation, you could say, last year completely tanked. And it didn't seem like it was going to be salvageable because that's how the internet works. Once they start to see who you are, they don't tend to...
Now for the most striking twist. Blake Lively, in full entitled, power-tripping mode, apparently believed she could muzzle Baldoni and his legal team with a gag order, treating the courtroom like a scripted stage where she alone dictated the dialogue. But the court wasn't swayed. Judges flatly rejected her request, insisting that the case proceed transparently. The mountain of evidence stacked against her is reportedly so extensive that the court demanded every shred of detail be revealed, leaving Blake with nowhere left to hide.
Essentially, I walked you through the New York Times metadata and showed you that this woman had posted on X and essentially just like blared it out to the world.
And now, with Baldoni hitting her with a massive $400 million defamation lawsuit, Blake Lively is learning this is no longer a PR skirmish, but a financial disaster she has no realistic chance of winning. To make matters worse, Hollywood, social media, and the press are rapidly shifting against her with unprecedented speed. The same industry that usually rushes to protect any actress crying foul has fallen unusually silent, leaving her isolated in a scandal that grows more toxic by the day.
She has proven herself not to be a kind person, okay? And that's largely due to the fact that she is a modern feminist, which means that she grew up wealthy, her life has been perfect, and so she has to create struggle where there...
Public reaction has been even more brutal, with social media relentlessly mocking her, dubbing her fake lively, while dissecting every inconsistency in her story. To make matters worse, the drama has dragged Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift into the chaos, two names Blake likely counted on as shields. Instead of protecting her, however, her most influential allies have now turned into PR liabilities, intensifying the backlash and making her position even more precarious.
Friedman says, due to public interest in this case, we have now stumbled upon this, and we're therefore amending this because we think that it shows that she was plotting.
But wait, things get even juicier. Blake Lively didn't just make false claims against Justin Baldoni. She allegedly constructed an entire fabricated narrative hand-in-hand with the media. And the person who exposed this supposed scheme? None other than Candace Owens, of all people.
Has a track record of being difficult to work with, well established before Justin Baldoni was ever in the picture.
In what may be the decade's most devastating revelation, Owens' explosive investigation revealed that Blake's team had allegedly been collaborating with the New York Times to smear Justin Baldoni well before she even filed her case. This wasn't a desperate plea for justice. It was a carefully staged campaign from the start.
Brian and Blake's Titanic, the ship that not even God could sink, is sinking. It's going down because God is God.
This was no spur-of-the-moment clash, but a calculated takedown. Metadata from the New York Times article showed it had been drafted beforehand, implying Blake's PR team had orchestrated a pre-planned hit piece. The story went live on December 21st, 2020, conveniently aligned with Blake's official complaint. Coincidence? Hardly. The timing screams coordination, not chance.
I just wanted to say that we should be celebrating this as a major win because we were the ones who dug all of this up like psychos because we have been obsessed with this case.
Owens arrived armed with a staggering 168-page dossier packed with damaging evidence, text messages, emails, and receipts, each pointing to contradictions in Blake's statements and offering undeniable proof that she was manipulating the media. The extent of the deliberate deception on display is so extreme that it makes Amber Heard's infamous courtroom performances look minor by comparison, elevating this case into one of the most calculated scandals Hollywood has seen in years.
Want a judge to see our side of things. Girl, goodbye. Just goodbye. It's like the fakest thing ever. She's now fake Lively, crying Reynolds.
Blake tried to command the media narrative as if she were directing her own film, intent on portraying herself as the noble heroine standing tall against injustice. But Owens' investigation completely backfired on her, exposing that she had been orchestrating a full-scale PR smear campaign long before she even filed her official complaint, unraveling her carefully crafted image.
Yesterday on Friday, Brian Friedman, Justin Baldoni's lawyer, amended their lawsuit against Blake Lively, and they included the New York Times.
Imagine attempting to stage a massive Hollywood con only to be exposed by a talk show host wielding nothing more than a stack of screenshots. Blake genuinely believed she was playing four-dimensional chess, but in reality, she was fumbling with a bargain bin game board from the dollar store.
From Baldoni. It is 224 pages longer than the original 179-page complaint. It is now a consolidated action, meaning that Baldoni's lawsuit against Lively and Ryan Reynolds in the New York Times and her suit against him will all be joined together as one. This was approved by the...
At this stage, things have spiraled from bad to catastrophic. The judge is allowing every detail to surface, stripping away any chance of concealment. The public recognizes she's lying. The media is retreating from its early support, and Baldoni's lawsuit only grows stronger by the day. With no viable defense, no strategy to suppress the mounting evidence, and no escape route, she faces the very real prospect of career-ending fallout from this scandal.
Now, I want to make something very clear to you. She filed a complaint at first, not a lawsuit. Okay, so on December 20th, she had filed a complaint with the Californian Civil Rights Department.
Let's be honest, this is exactly what happens when someone grows too comfortable weaponizing their own popularity. Blake built her career on being admired, celebrated, and treated like a flawless Hollywood queen, which left her believing she was untouchable. She assumed no one would dare challenge her narrative, that Justin would quietly fold while she seized control of his film and reshaped the story to suit her own vision. Instead, that arrogance has only fueled the downfall now consuming her.
Would have expected. Instantly, Hollywood floods in. Me Too has been resurrected. They're giving statements. Amber Heard comes out of the woodwork and gives a statement, which I feel like after allegedly pooping on Johnny Depp's bed, she should maybe always sit this one out, but she didn't. She's like, nope, I'm with her. We're all with her. But actually, quite remarkably, the internet for the first time had a bit of pause. And one of the things that they had a bit of pause about was, why did she not file?
Blake Lively walked into court convinced she could silence everyone with a last-minute gag order, certain she could muzzle Justin Baldoni's legal team just as she had previously tried to manipulate the press. She believed a clever legal tactic would be enough to block the truth, preserve control of the narrative, and allow her to continue playing the part of the fragile, defenseless victim while painting Baldoni as the true villain of the story. But reality hit hard. The judge wasn't persuaded, brushing off her maneuver and exposing the hollowness of her strategy. For all her confidence in having the upper hand, Blake quickly realized this battle would not be as effortless as she imagined. The court, unimpressed by her attempts to control the story, made it clear that transparency would prevail. The tricks that worked in the media had no place in front of hard evidence, and when the real receipts, messages, documents, and undeniable facts entered the courtroom, her carefully crafted performance crumbled faster than her declining cinematic career. Unable to maintain the act, Blake was left with nothing but the fragments of a failed scheme. In the end, her attempt to bury the truth proved to be nothing more than a desperate, futile maneuver.
Public took her side, but I think everybody is still a little PTSD from the Amber Heard turd, and they're going, okay, I'm just going to wait and actually see how this thing plays out. And it's a good thing that they did, okay? Because then Justin Baldoni responded in a very big way to this.
Blake Lively never anticipated Candace Owens stepping in with receipts that would later be considered formal evidence in the case, shattering her expectation that she could simply cry her way out of the disaster she created. Convinced that tears and theatrics would protect her, she instead found herself cornered as the court forced her to confront the very reality she had tried so desperately to spin. Her weak plea for privacy was immediately dismissed, with the court making it clear that no such protection would be granted. And truthfully, what privacy could she even expect after she was the one who ran to the press first, launching a massive publicity campaign against Baldoni? It was Blake who chose to twist the story, frame herself as the victim, and manipulate public sympathy to her advantage. Now, with the truth unraveling piece by piece and receipts pouring into the light, she suddenly wants to hide from the very spectacle she created. The irony is staggering. She seems to have forgotten that it was her own decision to broadcast her allegations so loudly in the first place, and now that accountability is knocking, she is scrambling for an escape from the chaos she unleashed.
These files provide a lot more purported material in this story that we need to go through. And to be clear, there are things in this timeline that are more specific or not laid out per se in the amended complaint, but they could very well be used at an upcoming trial if this goes to trial. It's currently scheduled for March 20th.
Legal commentators are tearing Blake Lively's case apart, describing it as one of the greatest backfires in Hollywood's legal history, not merely a loss, but a complete obliteration of her once polished reputation. What was supposed to be her power play has instead turned into a full-scale collapse, and insiders whisper that she's in absolute meltdown mode behind closed doors. Reports claim she's been seen panicked, in tears, and losing control entirely, a far cry from the composed golden girl image she carefully cultivated over the years. That once untouchable A-list persona has cracked wide open, exposing vulnerabilities she never thought the public would witness. Every new revelation places her in a more damaging light, dismantling the myth she built around herself. Her repeated attempts to rewrite the narrative only accelerate the spiral, with each spin digging her deeper into a hole she cannot escape. The harder she tries to control the story, the more transparent her desperation becomes, and audiences are no longer convinced. Public trust is slipping away at record speed, and the mounting evidence ensures there's no path back to the pedestal she once occupied. What's unraveling now is more than scandal. It's devastation on a scale nobody could have predicted.
I'm the victim and like these horrible men did something to me. And I personally did not feel that Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds had the star power to get the New York Times to risk their professional reputation to help take down Justin.
And as if things weren't already disastrous for Blake Lively, her husband Ryan Reynolds, mockingly nicknamed Crying Reynolds by the internet, has stumbled into an incredibly humiliating situation. Known for his quick wit and magnetic charm, Ryan is now being dragged into the scandal not just because he's married to Blake, but also because of his past connection with Justin Baldoni. This wasn't some surface-level Hollywood friendship. It was a real, deep bond, with the two men attending charity events together, appearing side by side at industry gatherings, and even openly praising each other during interviews. They gave the impression of being inseparable, almost like brothers, and fans admired their dynamic. But the moment Blake filed her complaint, everything flipped dramatically. Practically overnight, Baldoni went from being celebrated as Ryan's close ally to painted as a villain, and the speed of that transformation has left people questioning Ryan's true stance. Observers online have been pointing out how quickly Reynolds shifted gears, distancing himself from Baldoni with a noticeable coldness that contrasts sharply with their years of camaraderie. What once looked like an unshakable friendship now appears fractured, sparking endless speculation about what was said or promised behind closed doors. The internet, as expected, is tearing it apart, demanding to know if Ryan is blindly siding with Blake or hiding the real story.
What's also really amazing about it is he even says we now have a concrete timeline, which we believe implicates Blake.
Ryan Reynolds didn't just distance himself from Justin Baldoni. He went straight into full attack mode, labeling him a predator and rallying Hollywood against him almost overnight, transforming a man he had once openly admired and supported into the supposed villain of the century. What could possibly have changed so drastically? Simple. Ryan's wife needed someone to blame, and he stepped into the role without hesitation, showing just how quickly loyalty can evaporate in the glare of scandal. In an instant, his worldview shifted, and so did his carefully cultivated Hollywood persona, with this sudden betrayal not only about standing beside Blake, but about taking a public, uncompromising stance against someone he once considered a brother-in-arms. The speed of this reversal stunned fans, raising questions about what conversations or pressures happened behind the scenes, while Blake continued to behave as if she were untouchable, convinced her wealthy allies and media connections would safeguard her from the fallout. Instead, she now stands on the edge of a career catastrophe of her own making, dragged down by the very storm she created. Candace Owens ripped away the curtain with undeniable receipts, exposing manipulation and falsehoods that shattered Blake's carefully scripted narrative, while the judge flatly rejected her desperate gag order attempt, ensuring the truth could no longer be buried. Baldoni, who had stayed quiet for so long, is finally pushing back, preparing to make her pay both reputationally and financially, while Hollywood and social media watch the spectacle unfold in real time, with her every move dissected and ridiculed. The terrifying part for Blake is that this is far from over. The unraveling has only just begun, and her lies are collapsing faster than her credibility, leaving her with the possibility that even if the lawsuit doesn't completely destroy her, Hollywood's rejection almost certainly will. She's locked in the fight of her life, with her future in the industry growing more uncertain by the day, as fans and critics alike wait for the next bombshell. So get your popcorn ready, because this isn't winding down, it's escalating, uglier by the minute, and bound to set new records for Hollywood's most chaotic downfall.